health care law went up in front of the Supreme Court. We talked about that a lot the last few weeks, and now they are in deliberations. But of course, because we don't know how they will come down on it, this remains in the mindset of the election. And as we watch the campaign go forward, tell us about what that is. How different is that in this campaign season?
Well, look, I think one of the interesting things about the campaign so far is there hasn't been much attention on the judicial system, on courts, and on judicial appointments, which sometimes in the past have become hot issues in campaigns. I think the fact that health care law arrived at the Supreme Court last week, that it got so much attention that's going to be decided in June, and that there's now every reason to think it's going to be a closely divided court that decides it, is going to make the courts and judicial appointments a pretty prominent campaign issue from here on out. You saw President Obama weighing in a little bit today at a press conference when he was asked about this, and he said, I'm confident the law is going to be upheld by the court, but that if the court doesn't, it would be kind of an extraordinary case of judicial overreach, overturning a law passed by democratically elected representatives. So he got in a little dig for his side there. You've got people on both sides, activists on the left and on the right, I think ready to pounce if this decision goes against them. And what they're going to say is, the key job, or a key job of the next president, whoever it is going to be picking new Supreme Court justices, because you've got a court that's basically locked between a liberal bloc and a conservative bloc, and the next few Supreme Court appointments are probably going to tip that balance for a long time to come.
And Jerry, does this issue resonate beyond, we've had an election that's been waged on economic issues, socially conservative issues, the Tea Party. Does the issue of judicial activism rise to the level of, hey, I need a job?
No, not at all. And that's, I think, one of the strange things, and maybe one of the problems with this issue, is it gets the base, the conservative and the liberal base of each party, very excited. Those people live to have these kind of fights. I think it's kind of a turnoff for voters in the middle who don't spend all that much time thinking about what they think of Justice Scalia the way the activists do. And so I think the problem for the court in this context is it's already starting to be seen by a lot of people as just another ideologically gridlocked Washington institution. And this whole debate, it probably is going to make it more so, and that kind of turns off voters in the middle. But you've got an issue that does excite the base on both sides, and I think that's going to be used by some candidates in either party. And again, depending on the outcome of this decision, maybe by the Democrats more than the Republicans, or vice versa.
And is it a surprise, you think, Terry, to many voters that this will be such an issue on the campaign trail? I mean, we historically thought of the Supreme Court as sort of rising above the day-to-day phrase of Republicans and Democrats, and now we see them just listening to the arguments last week. Are they more politicized now than perhaps in years past?
Well, you got several things that have come together in recent years that kind of take that sheen of above the partisan fray away from the Supreme Court. You had that 2000 decision in which they essentially decided the 2000 election at the Supreme Court, and that turned off a lot of Democrats. You had a whole series of 5-4 decisions in which it appears that there's a conservative bloc voting a reliably conservative ideological line, and a liberal bloc voting a reliably liberal bloc. Liberal line. It makes the whole court look as if it's politicized. And you've also had a whole series of Supreme Court confirmation hearings in the Senate in which the presumption seems to be that the Supreme Court nominees are simply sort of stalking horses for one ideology or another. And I think the cumulative effect of all that has been to make the Supreme Court seem as if it's just another political institution. And indeed, its confidence in the court is dropping among Americans. The Gallup survey shows it's dropped 13 points in the last decade. And that's the same as the presidency and the same as Congress. And it tells you that I think there's a sense in the country that it's not above politics anymore. It is politics.